Things are gonna get better now, but you're still a drunken slob. Things are gonna get better now.
You got a whole lot better. For one thing, you're a day closer to the weekend. And secondly, it's your favorite show. Headbangers and Hooligans. As always, thank you for listening. Yours truly, Scumlicious. We're going to have some fun today. But when don't we have fun? Right? It's always a good time. At least it should be. Battle between my two favorite music genres. They're the reason that I do this podcast every day. We're talking about metal versus punk. I thought it would be fun to match up some of the bands and musicians that I love. Go head to head and just have some fun picking the winners and losers. And when I pick a winner, it is for fun. Just remember, it's like everybody plays the fantasy football shit, right? Well, not everybody, but a lot of people do. It's like that. Yeah, it's fantasy music. And I don't think there's anything wrong with having fantasies. But not those kind of fantasies, Penelope. Get your mind out of the gutter. Alright, let's get after this. First matchup. The Big Four. Yes, I came up with a Big Four for Punk 2. You already know who the Big Four are for thrash. Metallica, Megadeth, Anthrax, and Slayer. They're in one corner. The other corner, the punk heavyweights from the 70s, early 80s. I picked the Ramones, Black Flag, the Sex Pistols, and Bad Religion. That's not bad, that's a pretty good Big Four. And so let's match them up. Metallica, first 4 albums. You've heard me say it ad nauseum. 4 of the best records ever recorded. It's that simple. Slayer. I love South of Heaven and Seasons in the Abyss. Those are my 2 favorite albums. Rain and Blood is huge for a lot of hardcore Slayer fans. Anthrax. Love a lot of their earlier stuff. Caught in a Mosh is just a great fucking song. Even if they didn't sound the best playing it the other night on the Loudwire Music Awards. And of course Megadeth, who out of those 4 bands might be the most consistent as far as their discography. Yeah, they had a couple clunkers, especially with Risk. That album fucking sucked, but you've heard me say that a lot too. Every band is going to have a clunker. It just happens. Every single album can't be perfect. It's that simple. The Big Four. For punk, Sex Pistols. We got one album, never mind the Bullocks, but that album, pretty fucking legendary. Anarchy in the UK, a song that's been covered 50,000 times by metal bands. Holidays in the Sun, EMI. Just a great fucking album. And it still sounds so good when I put it in the cassette deck. Whatever they used to record that album, and think about that, we're talking 1977. It just, the sound is huge. It's a wall of sound. And Steve Jones mentions that quite a bit. Just quadruple tracks of his guitar. And being a guitarist, I definitely admire that. You've got Johnny Rotten, one of the most distinct voices of all time. The Ramones. Who hates the Ramones? Probably nobody, right? So many different songs that people remember. Blitzkrieg Bop. I Want to Sniff Some Glue. Simple but powerful. The ultimate garage band. That's the Ramones. Black Flag. Now, for the purposes of this battle here, I am talking Black Flag with Keith Morris. Wasted. I don't care. Gimme, gimme, gimme. I need some more. Gimme, gimme, gimme. Don't ask what for. What the fuck for? Said it. Oh, I love that song. Keith Morris. What an amazing voice. Of course, Bad Religion. All the bands. Think of all the bands they influenced that got popular in the mid-90s. NoFX. Pennywise. The list goes on and on. But when you look at the total work, the Big Four thrash against the Big Four punk, I still think the Big Four of thrash, they went out. Even though they're Bad Religion, a lot of great music they recorded. But for me personally, some of their albums, especially the later albums, not as good as their earlier work. So that kind of takes them down a notch. I'm not saying Bad Religion sucks, by the way. Don't take the words out of context. They're still a great band. Black Flag, it's with Keith Morris, is just incredible. But we are talking about a small sample size of music. Sex Pistols, one album. So even with Metallica recording all the fucking duds they did in the 90s and the 2000s, yeah, the Big Four thrash, they win this battle. So it's Metal's up 1-0, and there's 15 total battles, by the way. That's what I came up with. Metal is 1-0. Alright, second battle. This will be a fun one. Pantera versus Green Day. And the one thing that you have to think about in this battle is try not to think about the stupid shit that Green Day recorded, American Idiot, and their newest album, all the political shit. I don't care about those. We're talking about Kerplunk, 1039 Hours, Slappy Hours, whatever the hell the title of that album is, Dookie, and Insomniac. Right? I'm going by those 4 albums. So Pantera, Cowboys from Hell, Vulgar Display of Power. Why do I do this? It's a brain fart, and I'm not even drunk, not even drinking. Far Beyond Driven. Why the hell can I remember that? And then the Great Southern Trendkill. I'm just going with those 4. So you take those 4 against the 4 of Green Day. That's pretty easy, right? Because Pantera wins that. Even with just those first 3. Cowboys from Hell, Vulgar Display of Power. You know how much I love that. It's my top 10 of all time. And Far Beyond Driven. And I love Dookie and Insomniac. And you can't diminish the excellence of those albums. Green Day irritates the shit out of me now, but those albums are still awesome. But you gotta give it up. It is Pantera. So, first 2, it goes to Metal. They are 2-0. Don't get too far behind here, punk. You gotta catch up. Next battle, we're going singers. Bon Scott versus Mike Ness. And why did I pick Mike Ness? Because all these guys talk about how influential he was I think I remember the guy from Strung Out talking about it. I do believe. I know the guy from MXPX, yes, that same MXPX that I kind of ripped into a couple months ago. But I've heard a lot of punk musicians talk about how he influenced them. And not a huge Social Distortion fan. And that voice, how unique is it? Because I hear a lot of fans talk about, oh, Mike Ness, his vocals, a little bit too nasally for me. They just are. Not saying he's terrible. I'm just saying Social Distortion isn't the kind of band I get excited about. But I do give them credit. That's a huge influence on a lot of punk bands. They deserve credit for that. He deserves credit for that. But we're talking about Bon Scott, one of the most legendary voices of all time. Not because, once again, that he has this 10-octave voice. See how I switch that up? I usually say 8-octave. I went 10. Is there even 10 octaves? Fuck, I don't know. But that voice is so unique. It's really hard. It really is. It's really hard to beat that kind of legend. You know, part of the reason why I changed my thing about beating up Brian Johnson, just thinking about following the footsteps of that. It's impossible. It's a no-win situation. So yeah, Bon Scott, he wins this one pretty easily. Let's say it's probably a knockout, like a third-round knockout. And now, first 3 battles, metal is just kicking Punk's ass. 3-0. Let's get to number 4. Iron Maiden versus NoFX. This is a huge matchup. Everybody knows how much I love Iron Maiden, especially Killers with Paul Di'Anno. But make no mistake, the decade of the 80s is all Iron Maiden. And I'm just talking about Bruce Dickinson singing, okay? Number the Beast, Peace of Mind, Power Slave, Live After Death, Somewhere in Time, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, an album that I haven't really talked about very much, but it is so good. It's a story from beginning to end. Matter of fact, I'm going to be revisiting that album sometime here in the next couple months. I'm going to be starting a new segment, but I'll talk about that later. NoFX, a band that I used to love, that I hate now, and it's because of all the political shit with Fat Mike. But what he's been able to do with his band, and pretty much doing it without a lot of radio play or videos, almost the exact same way that Iron Maiden did. Because remember in the 80s, yeah, they played him a little bit on MTV late at night, Headbangers Ball, but you didn't hear him on the radio. Same thing with NoFX. And you know what? It's going to surprise you. NoFX wins this. They really do. You know, the two bands that you could call the Rolling Stones of the modern era. I always joke about Keith Richards and the Rolling Stones having pacemakers when they go out on stage. They've got to be close to 70, right? But NoFX and Iron Maiden, not quite 70, but they got to be at least in their 50s and 60s, right? But with NoFX, you know, and then Fat Mike starts a record label, Fat Wreck, and I've told you over and over how awesome his record label is. Regardless of his political views, you got to give it up to NoFX. Kind of doing it their own way, and a lot of other bands hate them because they're successful. I actually agree with Fat Mike on that. But To me, it is more impressive what NoFX has been able to do playing punk music than Iron Maiden has done playing metal. Isn't that crazy? Iron Maiden, just an amazing band. But for the purposes of this battle we're doing, NoFX with a split decision victory. A huge surprise. You gotta have a few surprises, right? So, metal, 3-1. They lose their first battle. It's okay though. Metal's not feeling bad. They're still going. Next battle, Dave Lombardo versus Jordan Burns. Battle of the Drummers. Dave Lombardo, he single-handedly changed the album, the Suicidal Tendencies album that came out last year that I fucking love. I don't want to say single-handedly by himself, because Mike Muir still sounds as fucking good as anybody. I love his style. But the way that Lombardo's drums sounded on that album, holy shit. And then you hear him live. Just go to YouTube and check out some of their live performances with Dave Lombardo on drums. Holy shit, is he good. Obviously, all the shit he did with Slayer, working with Mike Patton on Phantomas, incredible drummer. And I also, he's the drummer for Dead Cross, Mike Patton's other band, the 23 bands that he's in. Jordan Burns, Strung Out, considered to many people one of the best drummers on the planet. And we all know that Strung Out is more than just a punk band. And part of the reason for that is Jordan Burns. Incredible drummer. So dynamic. And dare I say this, maybe a little more dynamic than Dave Lombardo. Both of these guys are insanely talented though. Alright? And I think they're both the best in their genre. We're going Jordan Burns. Yeah, I'm giving Strung Out a little love because they deserve it. A band that's been around forever, and they're, what's the word I want to use? They're a little popular, right? But they're nowhere near the level of Slayer, or Suicidal Tendencies. Well, maybe with Suicidal Tendencies, but yeah, Jordan Burns. Maybe that's another surprise right there. So Punk making a comeback here. All of a sudden now it's 3-2. Who do I got next? Rancid versus Stained. Interesting matchup. First thing I'm going to do here, and this might surprise a few people. I know this will surprise Trailer Trash. I do not like Stained. I don't like their music. It's always depressing. Aaron Lewis, right? That's the singer. But over the last few years, I've kind of gained a little bit of respect for him. And it's another YouTube video. You can go on there and check it out. He obliterates this guy, these people in the crowd they're groping a girl, or they're doing stupid, nasty shit to her, and he calls them out. And he's telling people, hey, you see those motherfuckers? Beat their ass. It's ridiculous. And I loved that he did that. I think it was cooler than shit. Listen, he gained my respect just from that. I didn't care about any of his music that he had recorded. I liked the fact that he stood up for that girl. And then there was another interview, and he was talking about one of the songs, one of the big songs that they had recorded. I think it's Been a While, that song. And he said he was looking out in the audience and seeing people crying. And he's like, why are people fucking crying? He's like, I don't get it. Why are they crying to my song? He said it's not that emotional. It shouldn't be that important to him. It was just kind of funny to hear a singer say that, he wasn't saying, hey, I connected with the fans. He was basically saying, hey, quit your fucking crying. And for some reason, I just liked that. I really did. And then you get to Rancid. You know how much I love Tim Armstrong, that voice. And basically, maybe I should have made it Tim Armstrong versus Aaron Lewis. Aaron Lewis is always considered this great singer, right? And I think he did he do a country album, I think? I can't remember. Now, Tim Armstrong, no one would consider him a great singer. But that's okay, because he's got that unique voice that I love, that I always talk about. And because of that voice, because nobody else sounds like Tim Armstrong, Punk with another win. How about that? All tied up, 3-3. It's getting good. And we got 9 left to go. Alice in Chains versus the Offspring. It's the next matchup. Talk about Alice in Chains, you're talking about Lane Staley. Probably one of the most, not probably, one of the most influential singers in rock ever. And think about all the bands, and you've heard me say this before too, think of all the bands where the singer tries to sound like Lane Staley. There's a shitload of them. The Offspring come out of nowhere with an album called Smash. And I like Smash. I do. Not a huge Offspring fan. And but I did give Dexter Holland. I loved his record label Nitro. He had Guttermouth, he had 30 Foot Fall on there, and Jughead's Revenge. I'm thinking, you know what? I'm liking the Offspring a lot more than I used to, just for having all these bands on there. But when it and that album Smash, that changed the game. You know, along with Dookie, and you could say Punk and Drublick from NoFX, but the Offspring, Smash, everybody was getting back into punk rock again. But you cannot deny the excellence that is Lane Staley. And you just don't get better than that. And because of that, Lane Staley, and by the way, when you think about all the grunge bands, Soundgarden, Nirvana, I just loved the heaviness of their guitars. To me, and some people can disagree with me, I know Soundgarden, a lot of people consider them to be close to metal. I think Alice in Chains was the closest to metal, to me. Just my opinion. But either way, Alice in Chains, they beat the Offspring, and now metal is back up 4-3. So you having fun yet? I hope so. Yeah, I think it's kind of... Now I know why everybody loves playing fantasy football and fantasy baseball. Because it's fun to have fantasies. Fantasy music. Scummalicious style. It's just so damn neat. Alright. Next battle. And I did this for one reason. I left him out of the podcast earlier this week where I explained why Gore's the best costume wearing band of all time. And I mentioned them, the Aquabats, the masked band that at one time, are you ready for this? Travis Barker was the drummer. Same drummer for Blink-182. The same drummer that fucking annoys the shit out of me. He just does. But not get into that. But just like and I like the Aquabats. You know, they're goofy, they're silly. But we need bands like that. With all the serious bands all around us, it's good to have a band like the Aquabats to lighten everything up. You know, Pool Party, Pizza Day. I love a lot of their songs. But you are talking Gore. It's not even close. We know that. And because of that, all of a sudden, metal comes back and wins the next two. So they're up 5-3. Next battle is very interesting. And we're talking about two bands that are kind of alike. And I'm going to explain that. Guttermouth versus Guns N' Roses. Mark Adkins, no one would call him this amazing singer. Now, Axl Rose, some people do, but the only time I heard them live, and we're going way back to 1987, they opened up for Aerosmith. Axl Rose sounded fucking terrible, and a lot of their concerts, they sounded like shit because they were fucked up. Which, yeah, Mark and Guttermouth tend to get fucked up a lot, and he still does. Like, he's 50 years old and he still acts like he's 18, which that's why I love him. That's why he's my stepdad. You know, now that I no longer have my dad Otis around, it's good that I have a stepdad like Mark to look out for me. But anyway, and you know, Guns N' Roses, especially with One in a Million, you know, immigrants and faggots, they make no sense to me. They come to our country and, you know, spread some fucking disease. It's all shocking. Of course, Axl Rose says stupid shit. Slash, hell of a guitar player. But when he was fucked up, he couldn't play worth a shit. You know, they're all high on heroin. And Guttermouth, right? Mark Adkins is always saying obnoxious shit and offending people, which I definitely can appreciate that. And he got kicked off the Warped Tour. That in itself is, he gets bonus points for that. I've talked about that before. Everybody knows how much I love that. And Axl Rose is just a douchebag. And when you compare the two bands, you know, I know Sweet Child of Mine, you got some legendary music from Guns N' Roses. But you got legendary music from Guttermouth too. It's just people haven't heard them, right? You know? Hey Mom, you know, I threw the phone at her head, but I missed and hit her in the snatch. Where else are you going to get a line like that? You're not going to get it from Guns N' Roses. You got it from Guttermouth. And because Axl Rose has been a douchebag and still continues to be a douchebag, Mark Adkins trumps everything. So maybe another upset. Punk comes back, and now it's 5-4. 6 matches left. Who's next? You'll like this. Strung Out versus Ozzy Osbourne. And if you remember, and I know you do, because it's a great album, Punk Goes Metal, Strung Out covered Ozzy Osbourne's Bark at the Moon. And I am not saying this because I'm a fanboy, which I am. Full disclosure, everyone knows that. Huge fan of Strung Out. But they did. Their version sounded better than the original version, which is Ozzy Osbourne's. I know it's crazy to say that. My 2 favorite albums from Ozzy are Bark at the Moon and The Ultimate Sin. Great fucking albums. I think Jake E. Lee, criminally underrated. He wasn't better than Randy Rhoads. He wasn't. But to follow that, kind of like when Brian Johnson was following up Bon Scott. Can you imagine following up Randy Rhoads? So in a way, that was kind of a no-win situation for Jake E. Lee too. Those albums are great, but it's Strung Out. And Jordan Burns, who won the earlier Battle of the Drummers, plus with Strung Out covering an Ozzy song and doing it better than Ozzy, they get the win here. And folks, just like that, we are tied up 5-5 in this fantasy music battle extravaganza. We're all tied up with 5 battles left. Next one, Jawbreaker versus Chevelle. Interesting little matchup here. Why did I pair up these 2 bands? Well, because both of them are 3 pieces, right? And for the most part, I'm not for sure, but Chevelle has had the same 3 guys in it from the beginning. Well, Chevelle did start out with the three brothers, and then it was Joe that left in 2005, and then they got their brother-in-law to play with him, which is kind of fucking cool when you think about that. So, yeah, the brother left, but they still kept it in the family. And not like that, though. Get your Penelope. Just stop with the fucking family tree, go straight up jokes. All the redneck jokes. They're not rednecks. They're from Chicago, which is kind of cool, right? Gotta respect a band from the Midwest. And Jawbreaker, same three guys played on all their albums, and I do believe they're kind of making a comeback here. I love Dear You, and I talked about this the other day, and I don't know a lot of the Chevelle's albums. You know, I'm not going to lie and say I do, but I like a lot of their music. You know, I like Send the Pain Below, Seeing Red, and I like their last album that they released, The North Quarter. I like that album that they released in 2016. But Jawbreaker, you know, all the bands that talk about them as being, you know, as them being a big influence. I'm going with Jawbreaker, but this is a close one, and I don't own any music from Chevelle. I haven't bought any, but if their songs on, I listen to it. I've got a few of their songs saved on YouTube that I listen to, so I do like the band. I just think Jawbreaker overall is the better band, and there you go. So Punk up 6-5. 6-5. Back and forth. What a battle today, huh? Now this next matchup is very interesting. Can't say I'm a huge fan of either band. Blink-182 versus Slipknot. I do own Dude Ranch on cassette from Blink-182. I think it's a great album. I still listen to it. I like Lemmings. I like Damn It. Josie. My girlfriend takes me home when I'm too drunk to drive. You know, some of the lyrics are kind of ridiculous, but I don't care. You know, I like the, trying to think of the one song where Mark sings, I'll just stay and jack off inside my room all alone, or some shit like that. Kind of funny. And Slipknot, everyone knows how I feel about Slipknot at this point, and Slipknot, I think, wins this one fairly easily. Don't get me wrong, I'm not dismissing Blink-182. They started a bad trend of a lot of these fucking cheesy bands like 5 Seconds of Summer. So we can all blame Blink-182 for that. And then, you know, Tom DeLonge, he's not in the band anymore, but he's just a giant fruitcake now. He's probably watching E.T. as we speak. He probably plays it all day, just over and over. You know, the whole fucking Alien thing. Or maybe, yeah, he probably watches Alien and Aliens. Who knows? Anyway, I think Slipknot, they win this one. And I said this before. Give Slipknot credit. Been through a lot of shit, and they're still getting after it. And I guess it is good to have at least some band from Iowa represented. We're not just a bunch of hicks in the cornfields, people. I know you think that, but we're not all kind of stupid, and we do like our meth, though. We have some really good mobile meth labs. Ain't that right, Penelope? Come on, hand me that bottle of anhydrous right now. I'm gonna drink that shit right fucking now. Nah, don't look at me like that. I'm being stupid. Anyway, Slipknot wins, and guess what? We are back. 6-all. 3 battles left. Next one, Rage Against the Machine versus Minor Threat. I matched these up especially with Minor Threat, the whole straight edge thing, clean living, and remember what I said about that. Some of them guys took it overboard. Hey, oh my God, that guy's out there smoking. Beat his fucking ass. They did go overboard with that shit. And, Rage Against the Machine was very political. And I don't know why, because I've watched the performance a ton of times on Saturday Night Live, but they can't ever play Saturday Night Live again, Rage Against the Machine. What did I miss there? Yeah, I think they win fairly easily. Not a Minor Threat fan. I'm not trying to run them in the ground or take anything away from them. I know they're considered a legendary band to a lot of people. Not for me. So, metal comes back 7-6. 2 battles left. Sublime versus Nirvana. Interesting right here. When you think about Nevermind, it is going to be, and it is right now, but it's still 100 years from now. Who the fuck? Think about that. What is music going to be like in 100 years? It'll be a lot worse because it feels like it's regressing now. Will anybody even play an instrument in 100 years? Anyway, Nevermind is going to still be, people will be talking about it because it is that legendary album. Smells Like Teen Spirit, whether you love it. Most of us hate it at this point because we've heard it 1,000 fucking times. Still one of the most legendary songs ever recorded. And Sublime. The ska thing going. 40 Ounces to Freedom. And I like some of their songs. Yeah, I did match them up for one reason. And I'm not trying to be gruesome or make fun of anything, but both singers die of a heroin overdose. And to me, though, it really is Kurt Cobain, who will probably go down as the more legendary musician over God, I'm having another brain fart. Sublime's singer-guitarist. It's Bradley Knoll. I'm going with Sublime on this. Call this an upset, right? And like I said about Nevermind, legendary album. And their Unplugged that Nirvana did. Like, some of those songs on there, pretty interesting songs. Unique chord patterns and stuff that you don't normally hear. And Kurt Cobain, whether I liked him or hated him, he definitely was a musician that was kind of ahead of his time. But I'm going to go with Sublime with this for the simple fact, I guess I don't want to feel like I'm in Seattle. I don't want it to be rainy and cloudy, fucking depressing. We have enough of that. And besides, for the purposes of this thing I'm doing, it ties it all up. 7-7. Who is going to decide who wins this? Last matchup. And what a matchup to decide this whole thing. It's Pennywise, not the fucking clown, not the movie. Pennywise the band versus System of a Down. I am one of those people that really doesn't like System of a Down. Not saying they're a terrible band. They got a couple songs I don't mind. BYOB, Bring Your Own Beer. But is it Serge Tankian? Hope I'm not slaughtering that name. Just something about his voice, it wears on me. It makes me pull hair out of my head. And I don't want to do that. And Pennywise, wow, kind of almost thrash punk. I know they get categorized as speed, skate punk thing. I get tired of hearing that term about as much as the fucking pop punk thing. But really, when you listen, especially like a lot of the earlier stuff, really fast shit. Byron, the drummer for Pennywise, so criminally underrated. I just think Pennywise is the better band. Bam! Over System of a Down. Trust me, I know thousands of people would disagree with me on that. So in a close battle, punk beats metal today. 8-7. And maybe we'll do this again, and I'll use different bands. But on this Thursday, punk sneaks out the win, 8-7 over metal. There you go. Hope you had as much fun as I did. But I'm never bored because, I love to talk. Alright, you know how I do this. Take it easy, and if it's easy, take it twice, my friends. I'm out.